Welcome! Today we're going to explore a really powerful shift in perspective. It's about learning how to accept other people's stories exactly as they are, not as we wish they were. And you'll see this isn't about giving up. It's actually a profound act of personal leadership.
So let's just dive right in with the feeling I think we all know, that complete exhaustion that comes from trying to direct someone else's life. You write the script for them in your head, you can see the part they're supposed to play, but they just won't follow it. That struggle? That's where we so often lose our own alignment.
And this whole experience, this struggle, it has a name. We call it the director's trap. And just being able to name it is the very first step to getting out.
And here's the real paradox of the director's trap. The minute you try to change their story, your own story, well, it stops being about you. It becomes about changing them. All your energy, your focus, your entire personal narrative gets tangled up in a role you were never meant to play.
So if that's the trap, what's the way out? The alternative is acceptance. But, and this is a big but, this is not about being passive. It's about reclaiming your own power by getting really clear on what acceptance truly is.
Yeah, this distinction is absolutely crucial. See, acceptance is not about tolerating harm. It's not about giving up on yourself or forcing yourself to stay in a situation that's not right. What it is about seeing reality with total clarity. It's about seeing their story for what it is, so you can take responsibility for your story, and from there make a truly conscious choice.
And this shift leads us right to a core principle of living in alignment, choosing responsibility over reactivity. It means that instead of constantly being pulled into their drama, into their patterns, you shift your focus inward. You take ownership of your story, your choices.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? Well, that brings us to a really simple framework for discernment, a clear process you can use to navigate these exact situations.
The whole foundation of this framework rests on one single insight. If you can internalize this, everything changes. Their actions have more to do with their story than with you.
So the framework itself just has 3 steps. It's a simple practice, though not always easy. Don't personalize, get perspective, and release the why. Let's just briefly touch on each one.
Okay, step 1 is to not personalize. This means really recognizing that people are creatures of their patterns. Their behavior is often just an echo of their past, not some direct comment on your worth. You just happen to be the person who's interacting with their long-established story right now.
Second, you get perspective. Now, to be really clear, this doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior. Not at all. It just means recognizing that their story is this complex, tangled thing, shaped by experiences you might not ever fully understand. And when we see that complexity, we can start to loosen the grip that our own anger and resentment has on us.
And finally, you release the why. It's not your job to be a detective for their story. Honestly, that search for the perfect explanation of why they are the way they are, it can keep you trapped in their narrative forever. The most responsible thing you can do is bring the focus back to your own path.
Now, with this framework in mind, we can start to see the 2 main ways other people's stories actually impact our own. They tend to serve as either a mirror or a contrast.
So, the people around us affect our own narrative in one of 2 ways. First, they can act as a mirror, right? They normalize behaviors, they reinforce our own patterns, and our brains are literally wired to do this. Or, second, they can serve as a contrast. They can be this glaringly obvious example of what we do not want, which actually helps us clarify our own values.
And all of this work, the acceptance, the discernment, the perspective, it all leads to the most empowering step of all, exercising your power of choice.
This is it. This is where your real power is. You are never without a choice. After you move through this framework, you get to consciously decide. You can either accept their story and the role it plays in your life, or you can lovingly decide that your stories simply must take different paths from here.
And that is the very essence of exercising your internal authority. It's the power to choose a path that is in alignment with your own story, your own values, without needing to change them and without needing their approval. It's simply about honoring your own way forward.
So let's end with a reflection to bring this home for you. This framework isn't just an idea, it's a practice. Whose story comes to mind for you right now, and what might just one small step toward exercising your internal authority look like in that relationship? Maybe even starting today.